with a Plan podcast. This is where you can get some great ideas to create your most profitable small business. Just so you know, financial planning isn't only for those that have a lot of money or run big companies. A financial business plan is for us everyday small business owners and professionals that want to make great financial decisions that lead to bigger profits. So join me, Marcia, Riner, your financial business strategist, each Tuesday for some smart ideas that can add more profits to your bottom line. I've helped tons of small business owners establish and implement a tangible plan that guarantees sustainability, profitability, and guides their growth. If you know of anybody that may be curious, share this podcast. Let's chat to see what we can do together to create greater profits in your business. So today I'm super excited to have Joe Lawrence here with us. And Joe is a master at finding business financing. Joe's also an author and investor from Central New Jersey who helps small business owners obtain large lines of business credit. Working in the real estate, he discovered methods to line up cash quickly as means to fund his business. He takes pride in correcting the myths that only older large companies can obtain lines of credit. His company, Business Credit Workshop, teaches those very methods to develop rock-solid business credit profiles, as well as little-known techniques on how and where to obtain business loans in today's market. So wow, Joe, that's pretty impressive. And thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. Appreciate it.
Good. So today's economy, with the crisis going on and the craziness, it's even more important for business owners to have funds, backups, and pieces like that. Don't you agree? I mean, isn't this something that every single business owner should have lined up?
Yeah, I think it would be really important for almost every business owner to have some type of backup plan, whether that's cash reserves, which is a little bit harder to build at first, or lines of credit. Just having capital at your means and available, whether or not you need it today, doesn't really matter. You want to make sure you have that money in case you need it one day. It's easier to get it when you don't need it than it is to get funding for your business when you desperately need it.
You know what? That is so true, because like anything, if you don't need it, nobody wants to, or you can get anything you want. But when you want something and you have to have it, it's even more important that you have that plan and strategy already set up. So let's talk a little bit briefly about business credit, having a business line. What kind of tips and strategies can you give the listeners to establishing their credit history?
The first thing you want to do is make sure that you establish your business credit profile. And part of that is by simply working with vendors and other companies that report activity to your business credit profile. So a lot of people don't even know that they can't build business credit just on their EIN number or tax ID number alone. It's a separate profile, completely separate from personal credit, and it's separate than their EIN number and tax ID number. They need to get registered and established with there's basically three main business credit bureaus. There's Dun & Bradstreet, which a lot of people know about, but then there's also, if you go to Experian's website, you can see that there's a whole other section called Experian Small Business, and the third one would be Equifax Small Business. So you want to boost up and build up your business credit profiles with these three business credit bureaus. Otherwise, banks are not going to be comfortable lending to you.
That's super smart. And most people don't think that there are separate business agencies that look at business credit. It's not just your Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, the FICO scores that we all use for getting financing. Personally, I had no idea that it really matters solely on that side. So what are some of the little tricks that we can do to, you mentioned vendors, using vendors to boost our score?
Yeah, there's for example, some of the vendors are more well-known, like Staples, Office Depot, Home Depot, Lowe's. These are pretty large companies that allow your small business to open an account with. And by opening an account with these companies, which we're calling vendors because you get materials from them, right, for your business. And they happen to report, the ones that I just mentioned, they report to the business credit bureaus. So by doing business with these companies and having a commercial account or a net 30 account, an invoice me later type of account in your business name, and purchasing and having good, positive, consistent activity with these businesses, they report to the three business credit bureaus, hey, this is a business owner. They're borrowing money from us. Doesn't have to be a lot of money, but they are essentially borrowing money from us. It might be only on a net 30 term, where you have to pay the full bill in 30 days, but they're paying on time. And every time you get a trade line to report to your business credit profile, it boosts up your business credit score. And it doesn't just have to be large companies. You could find little tiny companies. You could ask vendors that you work with. It could be gas companies like BP and Valero. And there's a whole bunch of companies out there that report positive payment history to the three business credit bureaus.
I love that. My history previously, a long time ago, was in the mortgage industry. And so we would look at tips and tricks that we could build clients' credit and get them prepared to purchase their homes. So some of the strategies that we used sound similar to this, but using the different bureaus. Is it possible that small business owners who don't have much credit and maybe are newer in the business, maybe 3 to 5 years in business and haven't really established this, could they go to vendors and partners that they've already worked with and get a letter, and then that letter can be sent in to Brad and Dunn Street?
Yeah.
Is that right? Dun and Bradstreet.
Yeah, there's a service Dun and Bradstreet offers actually specifically where you can get credit for some of the existing vendors that you already do business with. There's some rules and procedures that you kind of have to follow, so you can read up on that. You can check out the forums or Facebook groups and how that works, or just talk to the company about it. But yeah, there's actually a whole process where you can get that's very cool.
We used to call that alternative credit.
Yeah. And it'll allow you to reach out to the vendor and say, hey, can you write a letter of, verification, or a letter that here's my company name, here's the date, here's the amount of credit you've extended to me, and then I pay on time. I actually had to do this for Amex, American Express, with a bunch of, they gave us, Amex is a really cool bank if you can call it a bank, a lender to get money from, because they don't just do charge cards, which they're very well known for. Once, as a business owner, you get the charge card and you build that up and you pay it down, you build it up, you pay it down, they start expanding what they're going to lend to you. So one of the things that they gave our company, by logging in, they just extended it to us, was a working capital line of credit. And they allowed us to it was for $100,000, and I could pay a vendor. And then I had 30, 60, or 90 days to pay Amex, which is good because most of our account receivables, the money we're waiting on our clients to pay us, is usually paid within 30, 60, 90 days. But yet I can get my vendors, I can get them paid right away. So they required me to write that letter in order to verify that other vendors have extended credit to me and I can pay them on time. So that's a really good idea. I'm glad you brought that up, is to collect trade references from businesses that you're doing business with.
Gosh, even your cell phone company, they may not report on it, but if you've got a cell phone and several cell phones for your staff that you're paying, use anything to build that credit. So are the credit scores different for the business line versus the traditional line? So the personal line, we know personal line, a good credit score is in the 700s. Is that same scoring done in business?
Yeah, it is. It's a different model, but there's special numbers that you kind of want to aim for. What you could do is open up an account with one of the monitoring services that we use is called NAV, which I'll just spell phonetically. It's N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, V as in Victor, right? So NAV.com. So NAV.com tracks and monitors your business credit scores. And you can go on there and you can look at what your business credit scores are. And they'll give you for free a rating, A is good, B is okay, C and D, like that, just like school. And if you pay them, which I would suggest you do pay them, they have a program where they track and monitor your business credit score, but they also report a positive payment trade line on your business credit score. So it's they're doing two things at once. So you can
jacks it up.
That's so cool. So yeah, you can learn all about the scoring models and things like that. It's not the only resource that's out there, but to me, it would be probably one of the first stops that I would make.
Excellent. Wow. So you think just because you've been in business for 5 years or 10 years or whatever, and you've been showing good and you file your tax records that, you're capable of getting financing, but that's not true. One of the tricks that I think that you had mentioned and brought to my interest is that when you're a business and you're applying for credit, you oftentimes have to jump through some pretty significant hoops to prove that you're credit worthy. And as long as you built up that credit score, what are some of the tricks or tips that we could do to get financing?
Um, well, there's two ways to answer that, right? One of it is preparing the company in such a way that banks are going to lend to you, and then two is know where to get the money, right?
Mm,
So let me talk about the first part for now, and then we can talk about the juicy part in a
sure.
second, right? So you have to get your business ready. So what are some of the tricks? This might sound really basic, but Google your company and look at your online presence, because an underwriter at the bank is going to Google your company, right? They want to make sure you have real basic stuff, like you have a website. Do you have reviews? Are you listed on online listing sites? The Googles and the Yellow Pages, Super Pages, the 411 directories, all that. Because if trying to present yourself in a certain way to the bank, these silly little tedious things, a lot of times small business owners kind of skip over. But to me, if I'm lending you money and I can't find you online, I'm uncomfortable.
Right.
So you want to make sure you do that. You want to
Super
make sure,
smart.
yeah, make sure your online presence is good. You don't have to spend a lot of time on that, but make sure it's built up. If you have clients that can give you reviews, get your Google reviews or whatever the hot platform is at the time, but get those reviews, get that good online presence, and make sure you build up your business credit profiles. Make sure your phone is manned. So if you're giving or woman, right? Make sure
Person.
care of, right? So if you give out this business phone number on applications and it's your cell phone, you got a really cool ringback tone, that's not going to work. It's not professional. So I always say have a local landline, like a real actual business phone number. It could be a VoIP. It doesn't have to be a real physical old school landline, but it could be a regular digital phone number. But make sure it sounds professional. It's got a voicemail set up. Make sure that someone's actually answering the phone professionally and all of that. These might seem like basic things, but just don't throw down your cell phone number on a business credit application and expect to get a $100,000 business line of credit, no doc, meaning no tax returns required, nothing like that. Because even you could be making $2 million in sales, but it doesn't look that way, right?
Wow. Little itty bitty things that make a huge difference. I never would have thought to make sure that my online presence is succinct with my business and that it shows that I've got ratings. But then the little things like cell phone and having your VoIP line, because who has the landlines anymore? I don't
Right.
think anybody really has those anymore. But having a separate VoIP line, a Google line or something along those lines that are separate, that's brilliant. Brilliant
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. And make sure all those numbers are listed too on all those sites. And if you want, I could talk about a process of how the second step is where do you find the money?
Sure.
Uh,
This is golden stuff.
So one of the best tips I could share with you, and there's been a lot of buzz about this lately because the SBA has been doing so much, and local government uh, and even municipalities have been kind of with grants and programs like that. But the SBA has been creating a lot of buzz lately with the PPP programs and the disaster loans, things like that. So what you could do, and this would work if we weren't in the tail end of a pandemic. This is something I've been doing for 12 years. But what you do is you look at the top SBA lending banks in your state. And the reason for that is a lot of the national lenders, they want you to like fit inside of a box, and if you don't fit inside that box, it's really hard to get money from them. But one of the best places to get money right now and during any time of uncertainty is local community banks and credit unions, because they have the money to lend. Their portfolio lenders, they lend their own money, they make their own rules, and it's based on relationships. So the reason you start with this SBA lender list, the top lending banks in your area, the SBA comes out with this database every year. So you just go grab that list for free online. And then you call the banks and you network with them and you find out what programs they have, because they've already been recognized as a bank that's extremely business friendly, right? And what you do is you reach out to the banks, you see what programs they have. And a lot of times you'll find that they are offering programs that are not listed on their website. They don't have pamphlets on them because they're like a little local 2-bank branch that no one's really ever heard of, but they got some really amazing programs. A lot of times that's exactly how we find these, banks that do $100,000 no doc business lines of credit. It's because we're working this list, we're farming this list.
That's so smart. And one of the things that I talk about is building relationships.
Oh
And
yeah.
if you like physically walk into the bank and
Yeah.
meet the bank manager or the business development person and you start to build a relationship with them and you're visible, and it's even really super smart to take your banking to them. You know, some of these big you know, the monstrosities that are the banks today, they're not user friendly. They're not friendly to business. They're not really friendly to consumers. But you know that there's an ATM on every corner, so you go there. But then they charge you ridiculous fees. They don't know who you are, um, and I love the idea of going local, going small, and building a relationship with someone at a credit union or a small business bank. Golden nugget. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. It works really well, and you touched on a really good point, which is the relationships. And those relationships come in handy when all the banks are doing these PPP loans, these paycheck protection programs, for the last like 60, 90 days. You couldn't reach the point of contact at the bank that's in charge of business lending. The only way you can get through to them is if you had their cell phone number. Well, you would have their cell phone number if you take our advice and you're building relationships with the vice presidents of business lending, and you're connecting with them on LinkedIn, and you're trying to meet with them for coffee and kind of take them out of because that's their job as the vice president of business lending. Their job is to go network with local business owners. So them meeting you for coffee is exactly what they're supposed to be doing. But you want to build those relationships with them, because a lot of times they'll advocate for your approval, which is really comes in handy if the application comes back and doesn't come back approved, and you want to fight that, which I would every time. Then you want an advocate at the bank, that is going to kind of represent your interest. Of course, they have to represent the interest of the bank too, but you want an advocate on the inside. So building relationships with the banks, that's probably my number one secret to success, is just old school, like you said, meeting with the banks, and these local banks. They don't have as bad turnover. So a lot of the national banks, every time you walk in, it's a different teller. You can't build any relationship with them. But a lot of my older banks that are like, I say older because like they're not exactly as hip with the coolest, the latest app. Maybe their website looks a little rinky dinky and kind of old, but excuse me, those banks are full of money, and they need to connect with business owners, and they don't have as bad turnover. So you might be talking with someone. I mean, one of my bankers, she knows my entire family. She knows my kid. She knows my kids. Like that. Those are the banks that you want. Is the banks that are always there. They don't have as bad turnover, and you could build a relationship with a banker for 12 years.
I love it. And you know what? That is really the business of banking. They it's called arbitrage. They take your money in as a deposit at a low interest rate, and their job, the way that they make their money, is to lend it, because they make the difference from the 1% they're paying you if you're lucky, and the 5% that they're charging you if you're lucky. The
Yeah.
rest is their profit, and so they're interested in learning and loaning the money out. So I think it's a super idea to do that. I think these small banks, they're friendly to us because they probably get one or two or five people that walk into the branch every day because everybody's doing online banking. They may
Right.
not have the coolest app or online or 25 tellers and ATMs on every corner, but you don't need that, because
Right.
today, as long as they have an online presence and you can log into your bank online and you can pay your bills electronically. I don't remember the last time I wrote a physical check. I think it's just having somebody like, there's those online banks that you can go to that are offering fabulous rates and prices and interest rates and stuff, but there's nobody there.
Yeah.
There's nobody there for you to go and shake their hand and build a relationship with, and take them out for lunch and vice versa. It is important. I love the local side. So way to go. Way to go.
Yep.
All right.
We're
So
big advocates for that.
we've built our credit. We've got our online presence. We've met our local banker. What else can we do?
At that point, you want to create consistency and within your, I call it outreach to the banks, because the one bank that you find that we're all excited about may not be available in, unfortunately, next quarter or in a year from now. The guy or girl you built a relationship with is likely, to go to another bank. And even though we say at local banks the turnover is low, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So you want to, this is work, finding these banks that offer business credit cards, lines of credit, and all of that are actively lending. It's like a living, breathing organism. It's not a one-time job, right? So what you want to do is kind of create a process or consistency. Maybe for you, that's every Monday morning, you call your 5 or 10 banks, whatever that is. For us, we call 80, 150 banks per day, and we have 2 full-time employees. That's all they do, right?
Wow.
So, because we have nationwide, we want to know everything about every bank. But that way, we're keeping our finger on the pulse, and we know exactly when one bank is kind of getting conservative, because the next level, to answer your question, is really getting to know the lending mood of different banks. And it's because you could apply to a bank, and if you just apply to one bank, you just build rapport with one bank and get declined, you think it's you. And I'll have 3 clients apply for the same bank, right? And they'll all get declined, they all get upset, and they all call me, and I'm like, it's not you. That bank just literally changed their program.
Yeah, tighten the reins.
That's how it works. So what do? We give you the next bank. Where do we get the next bank from? Well, every Monday, you call banks, work that list, or maybe once a month. It doesn't. But the point is, you want to constantly be keeping your finger on the pulse, and it could be as simple as just emailing the vice president of business lending. Hey Adriana, how you doing? Just touching base. How's lending? And a lot of times there's no changes, but when a change happens, you want to know about it, because you don't want to burn the inquiry. We could talk about personal credit if you'd like. That does play a role here. You don't want to burn a personal credit inquiry in order to apply to a bank that's in a horrible lending mood, that their balance sheet is whacked and their stock is at an all-time low, and you just weren't paying enough attention.
Right. That's smart. And the other part of that, you brought that up, and I think it's really important. It's not just your business credit. It's also your personal name that's going to guarantee that money along with your business. So your personal credit has to be on par as well.
Yeah. So that's really important. I think there are some that just kind of skip over that part. And so I wanted to mention it, is when, like we talked about NAV earlier, and they have something, this might be a little technical, but it's called a Small Business Scoring Service. SBSS, right? So NAV has this, it's actually created by FICO Small Business Scoring Service, and NAV tracks and monitors that score. That score is a blend between personal and business credit. So when we look at business credit, yes, it's true that the business credit that I obtain does not show on my personal credit report, right? So I can max out these cards. It's not hurting my personal credit utilization. It's not hurting my personal credit score, okay? Yes, it's true that it's a separate checking account for my personal and business, 100%. But if I'm asking the bank to give me $100,000 at 5.5% or whatever the rate is that day, and it's a no-doc loan, so I'm not giving them tax returns or financial statements, and I'm not giving them collateral because it's an unsecured, then they're going to say, hey, you need to sign a piece of paper that says you're guaranteeing you're going to pay me back. That paper is called a personal guarantee. So they do an inquiry on your personal credit report. So you want to have both things in good position. The higher your business credit score is, the higher it's going to pull your personal credit. The opposite's true too. The higher your personal credit score is, the higher it's going to pull your blended business credit score. So with personal credit,
why not have both up?
Why not just have both up, right? That's why I would say before you apply for a loan, spend 30 days, build everything up, look at everything. There's a lot of great tips that you can do to even boost up your personal credit. And you can read so much about that online or on local resources. But one of the best things you can do is look at your utilization. So utilization is very simple. If you have $10,000 total credit limit and $2,500 total balance, that would be 25% utilization. So I know some of this is kind of technical, but it's pretty straightforward. Don't have all your credit cards maxed out the day you're applying for a business loan. That makes sense.
Yes. And there's also one other trick I heard about in the business line that also affects your personal line. It's when you make your payments.
Oh
So
yeah.
if your payment's due on the 5th of the month and you pay it on the 5th of the month, it shows that you paid it, but it gives you a higher score if you paid it on the 30th of the month when it was due on the 5th. So that's another little trick. Is that, I mean, am I right on that one?
Yeah, you are rated with your how quick or how slow of a payer you are, but it's a
Hmm.
catch 22. So yes, pay on the 30th if it's due the 5th, exactly. But don't pay on the 23rd. Don't
Right,
pay too early because
right.
ironically, they won't have the bank, the vendor, they won't have a chance to even report to the business credit bureaus that you had a balance with them. Because if you extend to me credit and I pay it off 10 minutes later, it's almost like it never happened. So
Right.
there's kind of, yeah, you got to find a little balance, and exactly how you said, pay about a week early.
Yeah,
To
so
get paid.
these are tricks. So if we start working on our credit, we can actually improve it very quickly because the response is somewhere around 30 days, right? That you
Yeah,
can start to see the actions and shifts that you're doing show up.
yeah,
I mean,
within a couple of days, up to 30 days, because
excellent.
every statement, is every 30 days exactly.
Okay. So now you've mentioned it a couple times, and we'll kind of close up with this one. You talked about a no doc loan. So most of us are afraid of, bearing our soul and lifting up our skirt to show the banker everything about us. Um, you mentioned there's no doc loans out there.
Yeah,
Tell us about that.
that's probably our most popular product, and we have clients from 250,000 in sales to $8 million in sales. Right, we have clients in Amazon businesses to just marketing consultants, real estate investors, all across the different avenues. But the most popular product is the no doc or low doc program. So we say full doc. That's a bank that wants 2 years of tax returns or more, personal financial statements, and all of that. And a lot of clients can provide that, but many times you may not want to go through all of that, or you're in the middle of filing your tax returns, you're waiting on your bookkeeper. There's always a story, right? So what
Right.
we like to find is the no doc lenders. That means they don't ask for tax returns or financials. It really only represents like 5% of the total lenders out there. That's why I said you have to have consistency with calling these banks. So if you call 100 banks and 95 tell you no such thing exists, don't get mad at us. Just call the next 5 banks, because about 5 out of 100 have these really cool no doc business lines of credit. And the other thing we found, I'm a data guy, as you can probably tell, is about 20%, 25% of the banks you call have no doc business credit cards. So those are two products that
Mm,
you can get as no doc programs: business credit cards and business lines of credit.
love it. Love it. And I think lines of credit, the value of a line of credit is not to go out and start using it, but that you have it just in case. What's an often term that you can have a line of credit open for?
Most of the banks, they'll have you sign a contract that could be a 1 year, 2 year. I don't usually see more than that, but it is
Okay.
renewable. And in majority of cases, they renew the line of credit, and you don't have to necessarily reapply to do it again. I mean, and I this could everyone's individual circumstances could be different, but I haven't had a single line of credit it's called get termed out on me. But it doesn't mean it can't happen to you. If you're maxing it out all the time, then they might say, well, you really need a term loan, a 5 year payoff,
Right.
or whatever. But the line of
But if
credit,
you're
like,
using it at that nice 25 or 30% of your
yeah,
balance and you're using it frequently and paying it off responsibly,
that's the
which
thing.
is the magic, they'll keep it open for you.
That's how you want to use it. I mean, the real purpose of it is to fund usually accounts receivables. Like, you're waiting on that money to come in, but you got to pay payroll. You got to you got to pay your, like a lot of Amazon guys, they buy something for $3 and then they list it on Amazon for $8. So they need that money for 30 days or 60 days or whatever.
Until they
Um,
can sell it, right?
yeah, lots of different programs out there, but just talk to the banker. That's why you sit down with them for coffee and you say, hey, uh, I got the
Here's
line
my
of credit,
business
100
model.
grand. Yeah, what's the best responsible usage of this thing so I can get renewed every year without any questions?
And the other thing about it is that banker is a resource for you. So if you become friendly with them and you tell them honestly, here's my business model and here's what I plan to use it for, how can I get approved with you? They're going to tell you everything that you need to do. And if
Yeah,
you do that again before you need it, with even a month to 6 months before you need it, that will give you time to do the activities that the banker is suggesting and that, Joe, you're suggesting, to be able to ensure that you can get it. And I love the idea of shopping banks, have
Oh,
a
absolutely.
list. One is not, one's not the only way to do it. Have multiple resources that you can do it. So this is great information, Joe. And I know that every business owner needs to have a line of credit. One of my favorite lines is other people's money. It's the best resource you can have, because if you can borrow money at a low rate and you're making money on top of it, then it's the best way to go. I'm a huge fan of doing that. So this is just one source of having and using other people's money. So we're going to wrap this up here, Joe. Is there anything else that you want to share with us? Do you have any way that the listeners can get a hold of you?
Yeah, we have a website, which is, our company's called Business Credit Workshop. So you can see lots of great information.
Appropriately named.
Right, so conveniently named. And you could just go to businesscreditworkshop.net, that's N-E-T, and we'll give you a free report. It'll show you how to get $100 grand in business credit in 30 days without walking into a bank. Just go to businesscreditworkshop.net.
Love it, love it. Okay, and so what else do you do besides business credit? Do you only do business credit and that's your whole life? And it sounds like it's perfect. Do you do anything else?
Well, like business-wise, I'm a real estate investor.
Okay, that's right.
So that's what I use the money. That's what I use the money for. That's why I created the company, is I needed a way, like you just said, use other people's money in order to generate revenue, and that revenue is high enough to cover the expense of the debt, and then there's money left over for me. It literally is.
Profits.
Yeah, it's like basically like kind of like printing money. I mean, I love using other people's money and having good debt. Good debt is just debt that's generating revenue. So
that's it.
yeah, I have close to 100 rental units. I've been doing my real estate for over 12 years now. I do fix and flips, but mostly I'm a buy and hold guy.
But you could never have done that. You could have never created your business and got your business to where you were if you didn't have these business lines and knowing how to get credit. I love it. Thank you,
Yes,
Joe.
exactly.
Beautiful. So that's another one of my strategies I love to talk about, is that when you are super profitable, how do you take the money off your books and buy investments with it? So real estate is good play.
Yeah.
We may want to bring you back on and talk about that in the future as well.
Ooh,
so
I would love that.
Yeah, right. I know.
Yes.
Always looking at different ideas. So I'm a huge fan of making businesses profitable, and what kind of advanced strategies can we do to help impact that. So great. Thanks for listening today. I hope you found an idea or two or three or four that you can put into your business today that will help you have more control over your money and be more profitable. If you'd like to know specifically how to increase your business and your profits, let us know. We're always open to chat, and Joe's information will be in the podcast notes as well as my own. I am super excited, and obviously I put it as farthest away as possible. Here's my book, Big Profit Secrets Exposed, which shares some of these secrets that Joe and I just spoke about: building business credit and buying real estate as a tool, as an investment for your business when you're making a lot of profits. So check it out. You can get that on Amazon. And also, we would love for you to give us some feedback. If you want to reach out and tell us what you're doing in your business that's making more profits, we'd love to hear about it. Just make sure you comment in the podcast notes, and of course, subscribe. And you can always catch Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast players. And we're looking forward to more profitable, great information on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with it. Thanks, Joe.